All right, so welcome back to another CR Live. We're going to have Chris Pandolfo of CR and Rob Eno of CR and CRTV. I guess we're all CR and CRTV. We all have our hands in different things. But this Halloween spooky special is about Paul Ryan, which should scare the pants off you, but please keep your pants on. Trump a few hours ago, sorry, I'll keep jokes to a minimum. Trump a couple hours ago tweeted out a pretty strong statement against Paul Ryan, probably the strongest that we've seen in a while of any of the Republican leadership. And this is what he said. He said, Paul Ryan should be focusing on holding the majority rather than giving his opinions on birthright citizenship, something he knows nothing about. A Republican majority will work on this, closing the immigration loopholes and securing the border. Sorry, our new Republican majority. So my question to you all is, other than the fact that Paul Ryan knows nothing, what is Trump saying here? I mean, is he saying that he's not backing a Ryan-supported leadership if the House controls, or the GOP controls the House here in another week? I mean, is that a sort of, I'm going to support somebody else other than the Ryan McCarthy sort of lineage, or am I reading too much into this?
I think what Trump is saying is, we have an election in 5 days. Why don't you focus on that instead of attacking me and the things that I'm trying to do for the country? I think that's exactly what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump probably feels that Paul Ryan has not done enough to secure a Republican majority over the past 180 days. And Donald Trump probably feels that he's carrying most of the load.
But 5 days, we're 5 days away. Right. Ryan isn't running again. What is Trump doing with this tweet? Trump doesn't do anything just because, and you can disagree with me.
Trump is hitting back. That's what this is about.
And who?
Paul Ryan. The context we need is that, what did Paul Ryan say? So yesterday it was reported that Trump is going to try to get rid of birthright citizenship via executive order because the Congress won't do it. And it's not really a defined thing. It's never been defined by the federal courts what citizenship is and who gets it according to the 14th Amendment. So Trump sees the opportunity. He's going to seize the ball. He's going to do it via executive order and say, my executive branch is not going to interpret the 14th Amendment in the way that people have been interpreting it for really since just about the 1960s. And Paul Ryan came out yesterday and he said, no, President Trump can't do that. Obviously not. We're conservatives. We don't believe that executive orders can change the Constitution. And what Trump is doing with this tweet is he's hitting back at Paul Ryan for saying he can't do something. It's a personal thing. He's also reinforcing the idea that his legal scholars are telling him, and correctly in Conservative Review's opinion, at least in Daniel Horowitz and my opinion, is that Trump isn't redefining the Constitution. He's not amending the Constitution via an executive order. He's clarifying how the Constitution needs to be interpreted because it's an open question of birthright citizenship. Right. It's never been decided by a court. It's never been decided by an act of Congress. And so President Trump is the executive branch is a co-equal branch of government, and they get to interpret the Constitution. And I just want to also add to this, I'm disappointed I'm the only one dressed up today for Halloween. Where's your holiday spirit, guys?
Okay, first of all, let me address the last part of your question first. I am dressed up. I'm dressed up as Kanye West, but in today's world of political correctness and SJWs, this is the closest I can get to making myself look like Kanye West. I mean, I'm wearing like a plaid shirt, which he's done before. I have the facial hair. I've got the, the shaved head, but I can't go any further than that. I mean, I mean, I guess I could wear a MAGA hat. I don't own one, but he swore off politics yesterday, so I'm today's Kanye West in an NPC PC SJW barbecue world. Like this is as close as you can get. So all the fun has been stolen. So you call me a no fun Nancy. I'm sorry. Like you can thank Twitter and like half of Cal Berkeley for this. Well, I guess all of Cal Berkeley commies.
I listened to Don Lemon last night, and I am dressed up like a prototypical white terrorist because all white men are terrorists. So just my presence of being here means that I am dressed up like a terrorist. I'm also looking forward to going to Camp Lemon, where I hear that they have very nice s'mores and that there's some good arts and crafts.
Or you could get Malomars in the winter instead of s'mores. It's like an inside out.
It's an inside out s'mores. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so now this brings up a vexing question for me. If I'm dressed up as Kanye, but I'm white male and I'm a terror, like, am I now violate, like, okay, I'm not Kanye anymore. That way I'm not offended. So I'm just a white terrorist because I'm white. I don't know how this works.
I was telling you last night on the television, which is hilarious. You know, we
should have Don Lemon on to decipher all of like what we are dressed up as. Let's get back to the topic. I see viewers dropping like flies. They don't care what we're dressed up as. No, they're actually enjoying it. It looks like we're getting more. We have 5 million viewers right now. That number may be off by a couple million. The question I have though, Chris, I think you're right. I think the birthright citizenship question is important, and I think Trump finally came out strong on an issue, again a little close to the election. But why today to do that to Paul Ryan? I really believe that there's more to that tweet than simply him bringing this question up as a last minute election platform for people. I really think that when you read into that tweet, he's saying that Paul Ryan and leadership have failed in what they're done. I think he's setting it up both for a loss and a win, more of a loss, but and he's going to clean house. Now the problem is the next time he has an opportunity to have a majority in the House, if the Republicans don't hold it, and I think they could still, but if they don't, is in 2 years when he's up for re-election.
Right.
And again, you know, so again, why did he do that today? Was it just because the opportunity presented itself? I don't know. I just feel like there's more there.
I think it's not. All right. So the opportunity did present itself with Paul Ryan. So he's hitting back at Paul Ryan. I think he also thinks that the birthright citizenship issue helps Republicans on the campaign trail. He thinks that getting tough on immigration is what got him elected in 2016, and getting tough on anchor babies, because this is really what this is about. He's not trying to take away birthright citizenship from American citizens, right? He's not going to revoke anybody's citizenship. This is about illegal aliens coming to the United States, breaking our laws to get into this country, having children here, and whether or not those children enjoy the benefits of American citizenship. Because if they do, it causes a lot of problems, right? What are you going to do? If your kid's an American citizen, your parent's an illegal alien, are you going to deport them both? How are you going to deport a United States citizen? Well,
I'm laughing because in Rob's maybe the only one old enough to remember this. I'm thinking War of the Worlds. Like someone comes into this YouTube live, like we're having our own like moment here. Like they come in and they're like, illegal aliens are invading America. The scary thing is it's true. Like, I mean, but if you came in, it's seriously like War of the Worlds. Like people freaked out. Chris, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Like the blank look. You're like, that's a Tom Cruise movie. Why? I don't understand what you're talking about.
It's the 80th. Today is actually the 80th anniversary. Yesterday or today is the 80th anniversary of War of the Worlds.
Yep.
Somebody wrote, you know, it's the 80th anniversary of actual fake news. It's kind of interesting to look at, because that's what people believe. People were driving around. They didn't know it was a radio show. They thought it was actual news because it sounded like the way the actual then. But to get back to the point on Paul Ryan, I mean, Donald Trump often does things impulsively. He often does things just in the moment. And I think that this was just another, you know, Donald Trump doing something in the moment. Somebody attacked him. He attacked back. He is always in attack mode. I don't think there's anything more to read into. And I think he's kind of frustrated that Republicans haven't run on the actual things that he and they have accomplished together, that they have strongly run on that. And I think he blames Paul Ryan. I mean, I think he blames Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell for not getting rid of Obamacare. I think, you know, the House has been better than the Senate, obviously, but I think that they blame each other for that. So I think that that's what it is. Right.
And President Trump wants to make an issue out of the anchor babies because he thinks that that's something that'll motivate his voters to go vote. I'm hitting the beep button.
I'm sure that that's not allowed on the social medias, that phrase. So we'll just insert a beep there. Yeah. There we go. Good thing we're on a delay. Sorry, I'm having a little too much fun with just Halloween. I've got kids, so it's a fun day for me and I'm having fun. But I think this issue is important because, again, Donald Trump for the first time kind of came out strong against Republican leadership. And again, we're 5 days before the election, if I'm doing the maths right. And I think you're both making really good points. And I don't see how this can be a losing issue, but for what, Rob, you just said about the whole fake news. We have not talked about the caravan on the mainstream media outside of the mainstream media ripping on Republicans for talking about it as if it's something that that sort of doesn't exist and is made up.
Well, you had one guy, you had a guy on CNN say that it doesn't exist, Joe.
That's what I mean. Like, you could take all the political language out of it and let's just factually like report it the way that news used to. A group of people, 1,000 strong, estimates put it between 5,000 and 15,000 people, are coming to America to enter as non-U.S. citizens to live, stay, reside here. That's, I mean, is that a fair assessment? I mean, that's a huge news story. That's a small town coming to like a couple points of entry all at the same time. Right. I mean,
and they're coming here because they know that we're not going to kick them out, because the courts are wrapping up these deportation processes. We're catching and releasing people trying to cross the border illegally. When they do arrive at a point of entry, they're processed. They're told to show up back in court because you didn't do this right, so we have to deport you. And they disappear into the United States. And there's no political will to stop the things that are attracting them here. There's no political will to stop amnesty. There's no political will to stop them from getting welfare benefits. And they know that if they have children here, they're going to become United States citizens. So that brings us back to the whole idea behind what Trump is trying to do by getting rid of birthright citizenship. It's just one part of turning off an incentive for illegal immigration, because he thinks it's time to get tough, it's time to secure the border, and it's time to defend American sovereignty against the people who are not respecting it.
And when you say get rid of birthright citizenship, again, I mean,
and this is what, and Joe, this is a great point, because this is what's going to confuse people, and this is what might actually hurt the Republicans in the election, is the idea, Americans like the idea of birthright citizenship. They like the idea that if you're born here to a parent, your parents are American citizens, or if your parents are immigrants and they have a child, legal immigrants, and they have a child here, that child is an American, period. It's defended in the Constitution in the 14th Amendment. Mm-hmm. What they don't understand is we're not talking about taking away people's birthright citizenship. It's an American birthright. It's a birthright. What we're talking about is a birthright being stolen by people who don't respect our laws, who come here without our consent, violating our sovereignty, and then are abusing the rights that we should be reserving for American citizens and for people who obey the law. That's the distinction. And there is a really good argument that the 14th Amendment does not apply to the children of illegal immigrants based on the way that it's constructed, based on the history of how it was passed and amended to the Constitution, and based on the social compact theory of the American founding. We are a compact of citizens agreeing to live with each other, and we are sovereign, our representatives pass laws. And if you come here without our consent, you can't be a part of that compact. You can't be a part of that community. And people just don't seem to understand that argument. Well, the Republican Party doesn't want to articulate that point.
Well, they do, but they're fighting an uphill battle to some degree. I mean, to a major degree.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, Chris, but I had a hard time following that. I think that that's the problem. It's not easily distilled into a talking point. And the American public has a very short attention span. There's a lot of things that are coming at them at all times. And I think that this was a distraction. And I think that this goes back to the mole, or whoever wrote that letter or the editorial. Was it the Washington Post or the New York Times, wherever that editorial was? I think it was the Washington Post. I think it goes back to that because, Axios didn't find out about this because Donald Trump told them about it. Axios, in that interview, found out about this because somebody close to Trump's inner circle, which are probably only 3 or 4 people, knew about it. So somebody very close to Donald Trump let this out. Now, it might have been Donald Trump himself that wanted to do a trial balloon, and he did before the interview, or it was somebody that knew that this would hurt the chances of the election and is secretly part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. I think you saw a blunting of the actual progress that Republicans are making. And I think it was going through even after last week. And I think that this has the potential to bring it to a full stop. We'll find out at, midnight on Tuesday when it's, tied in the House and we still have 45 days of counts. But
so as I'm reading our chat, and for those of you that are watching, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you should be able to see a chat. When you see me kind of looking down, I'm reading over that. We're getting some greetings from people, and I did not have that up right away because I'm trying to man the controls here and have an on-screen presence. But one of the people said that about what the 14th Amendment started out as, and Daniel Horowitz, You have to follow him on Twitter. You have to watch him on the Eric Bolling show. He was on yesterday on Eric's America on CRTV, describing, he wasn't talking about this, but anytime Daniel talks, you think what Chris Pandolfo on our panel is dense in terms of what he says, in the gravity with which he speaks. I mean, Chris, you speak in paragraphs. You remind me of Pope Benedict. I mean, you don't write a sentence, you write a paragraph at a time. You speak a paragraph at a time. And that's a compliment in the sense that you understand this. You went to Hillsdale. You're rooted, your philosophy, your political leanings are rooted in what the forefathers did, what our founding fathers thought, how they thought, and why they thought it. And so the average American, it's not that they're too dumb to understand it. They get it. They get the principles when explained to them. The problem is they're never explained. They're never explained simply to people. We get political rhetoric. We get this political speak. And that's what you're talking about, Rob, I think. And so the question is, what is the 14th Amendment and why does it say what it says? And one of our commenters talked about that it was, around the time of Reconstruction. It was around the time of the Civil War. The idea was that we wanted to make sure that people who came to America with, and Chris, you nailed this important, vital word, consent. Okay. We are a government of, by the consent of the governed. We are a government of people. We are a republic. We are not all the people in the room raising our hand and the majority wins. We are people who realize that there is a longevity to our government, and our government should not simply be through the ebbs and flows of population. It's why we have the Electoral College. It's so that big population centers don't control the entire country. It's why we have the 14th Amendment, so that we don't have just massive influxes of foreign nationals who come here and destroy what went before and should come after them. It's why we have all sorts of things that exist, a balance of powers, three, arms of the government. It's so that we don't have a time of 1 or 2 years or 3 or 4 years or a population center governing and choosing what happens in this country. Because we saw Greece where that happened. We saw the Holy Roman Empire fall. We saw the Ottoman Empire fall for these exact reasons. Empires and democracies, in the sense that one person gets to have as much sway as the other person, but really that never happens, and it's money and centralized power. So again, I just spoke in a couple pages there, but how does that translate now as we're 5 days away? Can a discussion that is so thick and so complicated and so rooted in constitutional theory have any chance of helping the Republicans with just a week given to them?
It can, if you message it right. And
do you see that happening?
This is what the point I'm going to make is the way that you message this is, imagine that you, Joe, are living in your house, and the children that are born in your house have a right to your food, right? What the argument for birthright citizenship for children of illegal immigrants is saying, essentially, is somebody kicks down the door, has a baby in your living room, and then that baby is entitled to the food in your house. And you didn't let them in by the door. You didn't open it for them. They kicked the door down, and they're asserting a right in your home. Is that right? That's not right.
But the left would counter and say, but the 14th Amendment says that that's the law.
But it's not what the 14th Amendment says. The 14th Amendment says all people born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That what that means is you have to owe your allegiance to America. Your parents have to be citizens, or they have to have followed our laws. If you break our laws, that nullifies what you're asking for people to do is to be able to break our laws and then have the benefits of citizenship. That's just not right.
Well, Chris, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. So when I was a kid, I got picked up for shoplifting. So I broke the law. Does that mean that my kids, even though I'm an American citizen, aren't citizens? I mean, I think that's where you lose it. I know that you mean that it's illegal immigrants that came to the country illegally. And Daniel makes a point, and again, it gets down into the weeds. For a lot of people, Daniel makes a point that there are court cases that say that if you are in the territory of the United States, you're not necessarily in the jurisdiction of the United States, because if you came here illegally, you're not technically here. It's kind of like when you're sitting in an international airport and you're transiting from one country to another, and you never get out of the airport while you're on the soil of that country, you're not technically in that country. And I think that that's kind of the points that they're making. And I think that some people would be so, okay, how do we do this jurisdictionally? I mean, how does a city know if somebody was an illegal immigrant or not an illegal immigrant? To give them a birth certificate, are there going to be 2 levels of birth certificate? Yes, you're a citizen. No, you're not a citizen. You've got to prove it before you give it. There's a whole lot of jurisdictional things as well that I think a lot of people kind of get, a little nutty about. I mean, I'm technically, I have birthright citizenship. I have citizenship jus sanguine, which is of the blood in Canada, because my mother was Canadian when I was born. I also have American citizenship because I was born in the United States. So,
the point is that you should have that birthright because your parents followed the law, and that's what gives it to you.
But let's not. That's a philosophical statement. Rob, you'll remember, I mean, the Elian Gonzalez and we used to see, when we consume news, it was at nighttime, it was, just around dinner, before or after, depending on when your family ate, you'd sit down and you'd watch the nightly newscast. And I remember there were a lot of cases of Cubans coming over to America on like tire rafts. That's an image that's in my mind. And the law was that if they made it physically to the shore of Florida, the U.S. authorities would come and then help them, aid them, and then they were able to stay here as long as there weren't other like criminal or other things. There was a check system to make sure that they weren't violent criminals, whatever. But the thing that always confused me as a little kid is I'm like, they see these people, like many people died trying to make that journey. It's not that far, but when you're floating on tires with 20 people, it is. And I always said to myself and to my dad, I said, why doesn't the Coast Guard just go out and get them? And he said, because that would break sort of the rules that the US and Cuba, and I might be getting history and the law wrong, but
if the Coast Guard picked them up, then they would have to send them back to Cuba.
Right. And so the thought was, if they seemed and appeared safe and they got close enough where we could see them, we would let them get on shore and then they would be here in America. And so that's
the point that you hit it on the head, is we would let them. That's the consent principle.
Exactly. And so that was the whole idea, is that, and I brought this up to Daniel yesterday when we were talking, and he's like, and that's where we're like, we have, not case law per se. I mean, there were probably I know there's cases, but the idea is that we had laws and policies in place. So when people say that Donald Trump is amending the Constitution, he isn't changing anything. What he's doing is, there's been an allowance in recent years for things to happen, that just because we allow them doesn't mean, like you said about somebody breaking into your house. If you go to your friend's house and they just let anyone off the street come in, have babies, and then they feed those babies, that's fine, but what they do doesn't mean that you have to do it. So if Obama or even George W. Bush or other people allowed these things to happen, it doesn't make it the law. It just makes it a policy. So all Trump's doing is saying, this policy is no longer the situation. We're going to adhere to the Constitution. Now, you can fight me and at me over whether or not that's what the Constitution says, and we can have a constitutional argument over that, and I'll win. But up until that point, there are plenty of court cases in Supreme Court rulings that essentially use this one famous line, which is the Constitution or any law is not meant to be a gun to the head of the American people. Meaning, you don't take a law and contort it and create policies so that you're literally harming America or its citizens. The Constitution and laws are to protect the freedoms and liberty of the United States and its citizens. And so if there is a law that is somehow being used as a gun to our head, we need to figure out a way to undo that. And that is not unconstitutional. That's actually constitutional. But again, we're getting down this path a little bit. So Trump makes, and let me reel it in with a new question. Trump makes the statement, who do you think it helps? Does it help anyone running, any particular person or any certain type of candidate? Or do you think it hurts across the board?
It muddies the water. I mean, let's be honest. It muddies the water. It changes the direction of the election. It has people talking about this issue. And I don't know if it helps or hurt. My gut is seeing reactions on social media. The right after Kavanaugh was united. except for idiots like Bill Kristol, the right was pretty much united. I don't even know if we call him the right anymore. The right was united, walking hand in hand together towards this election. This is an issue that divides the right, rightly or wrongly. I understand that there are people that think that they should be all on board with this, but this is an issue that divides the right. By bringing this up now, it blunted the momentum that we had going into the election. And I think for that reason that it hurts Republicans, because it is yet another distraction, not showing people how absolutely insane and crazy the leftist mob has been.
But don't we want to be talking about the caravan, Chris? Doesn't this at least get us talking back about the caravan and not something else? But you think
and you have to keep this issue, this birthright citizenship issue, in context with the rest of our problems with illegal immigration, which is what Trump runs on. If Republicans would run against illegal immigration, if they'd run on securing the border, if they'd run on turning off the incentives for it, whether it's birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants or their ability to use welfare or the attraction of amnesty, if they run against that with a unified message, and if the conservative movement would support the Republican Party with that message, you'd see this be a huge bonus for Republicans running for office 5 days away from an election. But we don't have that because we have an intellectual class of people in the quote-unquote conservative movement and in the establishment Republican Party who do not agree with the Republican base on the issue of immigration. That disagreement expressed itself in the 2016 primary, and Trump should have won the argument when he won the nomination. But today we still have factions of never Trumpers. And to be honest, most of the people who are really mad at President Trump about the birthright citizenship executive order thing are remnants of the never Trump movement, whether it's writing for the Weekly Standard or some of the people at National Review. Others at National Review agree with the president.
Shots fired.
Yep. But these are just the intellectual people you see in the conservative movement. And not that there's anything wrong with disagreeing with the president, but we don't have unity on the issues that helped Trump win. If we did have that unity, this would be helpful for Republicans. Because we don't, it's probably going to cause an internecine circular firing squad fight at a time when they need to be united.
That's probably the best overall statement I've heard on this election cycle so far, Chris. So I'm going to give you 15 CR points for that. We used to have
as we used to say in Massachusetts with the Republicans, it's a shootout on a lifeboat.
And you get 14 points. Although I think that's funnier. Chris had the first one, but yeah, exactly. Nobody wins. I mean, you're making valid points and you're going on offense, but nobody wins at the end of the day because, well, the boat sinks, which is also the end of Titanic. Spoilers.
And the question I think that becomes is this a problem with what President Trump is doing technically, or is this a problem with the conservative movement writ large? And I think that's a bigger question that maybe we don't even have time to step into that.
No, but what we do have time for is one last discussion point and question, and I leave the most dangerous question for nearing the end here so that we can promo this on social media and get people to watch to the end. What is your let's be honest, what was your favorite Halloween candy when you were growing up that you got?
That I got?
Well, I mean, like, what did you like to receive? I mean, yeah, all we wanted full-size candy bars.
I've always loved all things chocolate, but I've never complained about getting candy corn. I'm one of the only people I know who actually likes candy corn, and I like it because my mom used to like it, and that was like a thing we shared. So I like candy corn. I'm not apologetic for it, and people get mad at me when I say this, but Reese's peanut butter cups, they're overrated. They're not terrible.
Okay. I was with you on candy corn, but Reese's is still my #1. You're a monster. Negative 27 points.
I am a full true-blooded New Englander. Marshmallow fluff.
I told you not to put that on camera.
I am 100% fan of Necco wafers washed down with the tasty and beautiful moxie. That is home for me.
Okay, I like Three Musketeer bars and Milky Way. They're not my favorite. My favorite is the new Reese's cup with the Reese's Pieces inside. But
overkill,
yes,
man.
It's stop. Again, you're a horrible person. Negative 14.5 points.
I mean, my favorite candy growing up that I never got in, because nobody gave it in Christmas, was Toffee Faye, because it was the adults' candy.
You and Ben Shapiro.
Okay, I've decided we're going to have an extra bonus super round at the end here. So Mark Sanford, congressman from South Carolina, right? I've got my math right there.
Yeah.
He is not up for re-election because
he lost his primary.
Exactly. And want to know why he lost his primary? Well, this isn't a reason, but this goes to it. He's handing out pocket constitutions on Halloween. Are you pro or anti this, Chris?
If you do it with candy, I mean, I'm fine with it. But
Chris, you're riding a close line. I mean, as a Hillsdale grad, they are going to rip up your sheepskin because you didn't just say emphatically yes. You know that, right? You're now banned.
Look, they're little kids, right? You've got 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds all trick-or-treating.
Oh, 2-year-olds don't love liberty?
Juniors don't read constitutional language from 1770 or 1789.
That's because you weren't
they don't understand it. I mean,
that's because you weren't homeschooled. I'm sorry to hear that. Rob, what do you think? Is he a monster or a patriot? There's no in between.
He's a monstrous patriot.
Wow,
good answer, Rob.
Just like Alison Camerata, was it Alison Camerata who or one of those CNN people said this week? Why is it that everything with patriot and but constitutionalism just seems racist? So obviously,
she didn't say that. Did she say that?
Oh, there's it. It was in the email that we send around to the staff with news stories.
I missed that. Yeah. Wow.
It was in there. It was in there.
Yeah.
I need a drink.
So it was in my award-winning WTF MSM newsletter, which of course the award that I have is a fluff award.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do our promos. Sign up for Rob's WTF MS. Say it. I can't say it ever.
WTF MSM newsletter. If you Google the WTF MSM, one of the things will pop up whereby you can get it. Or go to my Twitter account /@RobEno, and it'll be the first pinned comment.
You can find Chris /@Constitutional Monster. But no, he's really at Chris C. Pandolfo. I'm at Joseph Cross. No, I had to disagree with Justin Amash from Michigan today because he gave that 100 for Mark Sanford. I mean, I know they're like Liberty geeks, but come on, guys, Halloween. Okay, extra super final bonus round. Neither of you guys are parents. I am. What do you think about people over the age of 12 trick-or-treating? Yes or no? Is that anti-American? Should they be deported?
I think I trick-or-treated until I was 15 because people would just keep giving me free candy, and I wasn't making any money at that point.
And what's wrong? And what's wrong with that? Anything?
Nothing's wrong with that.
I agree with you. I think if a kid is out trick-or-treating, you know what he's not doing? He's not like stealing candy from like the kid who's out trick-or-treating without his parents for the first time. I mean,
I was 5'11" and 185 pounds at 11. So me trick-or-treating at 12 probably wasn't going to go over well, seeing as I look like a full-sized adult.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are some kids. I mean, when you're getting 15 or 16, that's a bit much to be trick-or-treating. But
you can't even drive at 15. What are you going to do on Halloween? You're going to, oh, hey, mom and dad, can I go to that cool high school party where everyone's going to be like
wasted and dressed as slutty?
Whoa, beep.
America, baby. America.
Yeah, no. Okay. I think we're winding down here. We still have some faithful followers, but when our super amazing, always delightful editor sees the end of this, I'm going to be made to pay the bridge keeper. So guys, thanks for joining me. Hopefully we can get one more in this week about what's going on in the elections, and then as we get closer, Rob, your prediction is that we're going to go into a tie, and Kavanaugh,
it's going to be close. And I think, you know, if you're looking, there's going to be some races that you can see early on, something like the New Hampshire first race, or a couple of races that if you see early on that the Democrats don't hold them, it's going to be a bad night for Democrats. So I think we're going to know. Probably
putting you on the spot, what is your big upset race?
My big upset race is probably New Hampshire 1, because it's one that people aren't thinking is going to be an upset race.
Okay, look that up. You should write a piece on that.
On the House and Michigan Senate on the Senate side.
Yeah, Michigan Senate's mine. I think John James pulls it out. I have nothing to back that up right now, but it's a feeling. It's the same feeling I got when Spence did it. There's just a sort of, there's a feeling that you know that a wave is coming. Chris, what's your big upset race?
Democrat Stacey Abrams beats Brian Kemp in Georgia.
Oh, That's a big one. Any reason why you think that?
I just think that if the Democrats have a good night, that's probably going to happen.
You know what that means, Chris? If that happens, we're going to have to build a wall about 45 miles southwest of here.
All right, I'm gonna go take my kids trick or treating and/or pass out candy or whatever we're passing out. I think we're passing out pocket constitutions. Okay, talk to you guys later. Thanks.
Thanks.